What if the fate of an entire people rested on your courage? Esther's story isn't just about royal crowns or palace banquets. It's about divine positioning, faith under pressure, and the kind of bravery that can alter history. From an orphaned girl in exile to a queen who risked everything to save her people, Esther's life proves that God's timing is perfect and his purpose unstoppable. The story begins in the vast Persian Empire under the rule of King Xerxes, who reigned over 127 provinces from India to Ethiopia. The kingdom was rich, powerful, and filled with splendor. But it was also a place where one decision from the throne could change countless lives. In the capital city of Susa lived a young Jewish woman named Hadassah, known to the Persians as Esther. She was raised by her cousin Mordecai after her parents died, leaving her orphaned at a young age. Though far from her ancestral homeland, Mordecai taught her the ways of their faith, the customs, the prayers, and the stories of God's faithfulness. Unbeknownst to her, God was preparing Esther for a destiny far beyond her imagination. At that time, Queen Vashti, the wife of King Xerxes, had refused to appear before him during one of his royal banquets. Her defiance humiliated the king before his nobles, and in anger, he decreed that she be removed from her position. A royal search was then announced throughout the empire to find a new queen, one who would be more pleasing to the king. Beautiful young women were brought from every province to the citadel of Susa, each prepared for months of royal treatment before being presented to the king. Among them was Esther. When she was taken to the palace, she found favor with Haggai, the official in charge of the harem. He provided her with special food, beauty treatments, and attendance. But more importantly, Esther carried herself with grace, humility, and wisdom virtues that no perfume or adornment could match. Mordecai had instructed her not to reveal her Jewish heritage, and she obeyed. In a kingdom where power was everything, Esther's strength lay in quiet obedience and faith. Day after day, Mordecai walked near the palace gates to hear news of her well-being, unaware that God's hand was weaving their lives into a plan that would one day save their people. When Esther's turn came to go before King Xerxes, she asked for nothing beyond what Haggai recommended. Her confidence wasn't in the cosmetics or the custom garments. It was in the favor of God that went before her. The king was captivated. Among all the women, Esther stood out not only for her beauty, but for her spirit. The scriptures say in Esther 2:17, "Now the king was attracted to Esther more than to any of the other women, and she won his favor and approval more than any of the others. So he set a royal crown on her head and made her queen instead of Vashti. The orphaned girl of exile had become queen of the most powerful empire in the world. Yet even in her royal robes, she remained humble, remembering her roots and her faith. What Esther could not yet see was that her rise to the throne was no accident. God had placed her there for a divine purpose, one that would soon be revealed in the most unexpected way. As Queen Esther settled into life within the Persian palace, her crown glittered for all to see, but her true identity remained a secret. Mordecai, her guardian and mentor, had warned her not to reveal that she was a Jew. God's plan often begins in silence, where obedience prepares the way for revelation. Behind the marble walls and gold pillars of the royal court, Esther learned the delicate rhythm of palace life. The politics were subtle, the hierarchy unspoken, and every word mattered. She had favor with the king, but she was still a woman in a foreign empire, a guest in a world of shifting loyalties. Outside the palace, Mordecai continued his faithful watch near the gates. He couldn't forget the young girl he had raised, now hidden behind royal doors. His presence there would soon prove vital. One day, as he sat among the officials, Mordecai overheard two of the king's officers, Bigthana and Teresh, plotting to assassinate King Xerxes. Their whispers were treacherous, and their plan deadly. Without hesitation, Mordecai sent word to Esther. She immediately told the king, giving credit to Mordecai for uncovering the plot. The men were investigated, found guilty, and executed. The event was recorded in the royal chronicles, though Mordecai received no reward at the time. It seemed like a passing moment, but in God's timing, it would become a key thread in a far greater story. As months passed, Esther's hidden identity became part of God's hidden plan. She carried the secret of her people quietly, not out of shame, but out of purpose. As the Jewish exiles scattered across Persia lived under foreign rule, uncertain of their future, their fate rested unknowingly in the hands of one of their own, seated beside the most powerful man in the world. Then, a new figure rose in the Persian court. Haman, the son of Hammedatha, the Agagite. The king elevated him to a position of immense power, commanding all officials to kneel in his presence. Everyone obeyed except one man, Mordecai. When Haman saw that Mordecai refused to bow, fury consumed him. But killing one man was not enough. His pride demanded something greater. Learning that Mordecai was a Jew, Haman resolved to destroy all the Jews throughout the kingdom of Xerxes. Esther, unaware of the growing danger, continued her quiet life in the palace. But outside, a decree was being planned that would threaten the very existence of her people. Haman convinced the king that a certain group of people, scattered across the provinces, lived by their own laws and did not obey the king's decrees. "It is not in the king's best interest to tolerate them," he said. Sealed with the king's own signet ring, letters were sent across the empire, setting a date for the annihilation of all Jews, young and old, men and women, in a single day. The empire that had crowned Esther now held the pen of death over her people. At the palace gates, Mordecai tore his clothes, put on sackcloth and ashes, and cried out bitterly. When news reached Esther of his distress, she sent clothes for him, but he refused them. Something far greater was unfolding, a divine collision between hidden identity and revealed purpose. In that moment, Esther's silence could no longer last. The secret she had carried for years was about to become the key to her people's survival. The decree was sealed. The fate of the Jewish people seemed certain across the vast Persian Empire. Couriers on swift horses carried the message of death. Every Jew, young and old, was to be destroyed on the 13th day of the 12th month. The news spread like wildfire, turning marketplaces into whispers of fear. In every province, anguish rose among God's people. Mourning filled the streets, and sackcloth replaced fine garments. But none grieved more openly than Mordecai. Day after day, he stood outside the palace gates, his garments torn, his head covered in ashes, crying out for mercy. Inside the palace, Esther lived unaware of the full horror that had been unleashed. Her life behind royal walls was insulated from the cries of her people. When her attendants told her that Mordecai was in mourning, she was deeply troubled and sent clothes for him to wear. But he refused them. Something was terribly wrong. Through Hathach, one of the king's eunuchs, Esther sent word to Mordecai, seeking to understand his distress. Mordecai's reply shattered her calm. He sent her a copy of the royal decree and explained everything. Haman's deception, the bribe he had promised the king, and the scheduled massacre of their people. He urged her to go before King Xerxes and plead for mercy. Esther's heart trembled. She knew the danger of what Mordecai was asking. No one, not even the queen, could approach the king uninvited. To do so meant death, unless the king extended his golden scepter in mercy. "All the king's officials know this law," she sent back, "and I have not been called to go to him for 30 days. Mordecai's response pierced her hesitation. "Do not think that because you are in the king's house, you alone will escape," he warned. "For if you remain silent at this time, relief and deliverance for the Jews will arise from another place, but you and your father's house will perish. And who knows but that you have come to your royal position for such a time as this?" Those words ignited something within Esther. She realized her crown was never about comfort. It was about calling. The privilege she held was not her protection. It was her purpose. After a moment of stillness, her reply came firm and clear. "Go gather all the Jews who are in Susa and fast for me. Do not eat or drink for 3 days, night or day. My attendants and I will fast as well. When this is done, I will go to the king, even though it is against the law. And if I perish, I perish." For the first time, Esther stepped fully into her destiny, not as a silent queen, but as a courageous intercessor for her people. Outside, as the Jews fasted and prayed, the city of Susa was covered in sorrow, but heaven was already moving. The God who seemed hidden was at work behind palace curtains and sleepless nights, aligning every event for his divine purpose. While Haman reveled in his power, building gallows in pride and preparing to destroy a nation, the hand of God was turning the tide in unseen ways. Esther's courage had set something spiritual in motion. The fasting of the Jews became a shield, and their tears an offering before the throne of the Almighty. The third day approached. Esther rose from prayer, her heart steady, her spirit strengthened, as she adorned herself in royal garments, not for beauty, but for battle. The queen was about to stand before the king and before destiny itself. The third day had come. Esther, after fasting and praying with her people, stood ready to risk everything. She knew the law. Approaching the king uninvited could mean death. Yet she also knew something greater. Silence would mean the destruction of her people. Her trembling had turned to resolve. Dressed in royal robes, Esther entered the inner court of the palace, her heart steady, but her steps deliberate. The golden pillars shimmered, and the throne room stretched before her like a test of faith. At the far end sat King Xerxes, clothed in power and surrounded by guards. Every eye turned toward the queen. The room fell silent. The law of Persia was clear. No one could approach the king unless summoned. But as Esther stood there, time seemed to freeze. Then, in an act that changed history, the king extended his golden scepter toward her. She had found favor in his eyes. Relief washed over her, but the real test was only beginning. "What is it, Queen Esther?" the king asked. "What is your request? Even up to half the kingdom, it will be given you." Esther's voice was calm, but her strategy was divine. She didn't reveal her request immediately. Instead, she invited the king and Haman to a private banquet she had prepared. Her words were wise, her timing inspired. That night, the banquet unfolded with elegance and mystery. Haman's pride swelled. Being invited alone with the king and queen felt like proof of his greatness. But Esther's silence was intentional. She was waiting for the right moment, guided by something greater than instinct. When the king asked again for her request, Esther replied gently, "If it pleases the king, let the king and Haman come tomorrow to another banquet. I will prepare. Then I will answer the king's question." It seemed like a delay, but it was destiny. God was setting the stage for justice. That same night, the king could not sleep. Restlessness stirred him, and he ordered the Book of Royal Records to be read aloud. There, by divine design, the servant read the entry about Mordecai exposing the plot to assassinate the king. Xerxes realized that Mordecai had never been rewarded. As dawn broke, Haman entered the court, intending to ask permission to hang Mordecai on the gallows he had built. But before he could speak, the king asked, "What should be done? For the man the king delights to honor," assuming the honor was for himself. Haman proudly replied, "Let a royal robe be brought, and a horse the king has ridden with a royal crest placed on its head. Then let one of the king's noble officials lead him through the city streets, proclaiming, 'This is what is done for the man the king delights to honor.'" The king smiled and said, "Excellent. Go at once. Do everything you have suggested for Mordecai the Jew." The humiliation was unbearable. Haman, who had planned Mordecai's death, now had to honor him publicly. His arrogance crumbled into fear. That evening, as Haman arrived at Esther's second banquet, his pride was gone, replaced by a dread he could not name. The queen sat poised, her face serene, but her heart burning with courage. When the king once again asked her for her request, Esther finally spoke the words that would expose darkness and deliver her people. Her moment had come. Every prayer, every fast, every tear had led here. Esther stood not just as a queen, but as God's chosen instrument, ready to reveal the truth that would turn mourning into victory. The second banquet had begun. King Xerxes reclined with his queen beside him, unaware that within moments the truth would unravel the empire's most sinister plot. Haman, seated nearby, tried to mask his unease. The air was thick with tension, though no one yet knew why. The king turned to Esther once more. "Queen Esther," he said, "what is your petition? It will be granted you. What is your request? Even up to half the kingdom, it will be given you." With calm strength, she rose to her feet. "If I have found favor with you, your majesty," she began, "and if it pleases you, grant me my life. This is my petition, and spare my people. This is my request." The room fell silent. The king's brow furrowed in confusion. Esther's words struck him like a blade. "For I and my people have been sold to be destroyed, killed, and annihilated," she continued. "If we had merely been sold as slaves, I would have kept quiet. But no such enemy could compensate for the king's loss." The king's face darkened with anger. "Who is he? Where is the man who has dared to do such a thing?" Then Esther turned toward Haman, her voice steady as she declared, "The adversary and enemy is this vile Hachmon." Haman froze. The color drained from his face. The very queen he thought to flatter had exposed him. Xerxes rose in fury and stormed out into the palace garden, struggling to contain his rage. Realizing his fate was sealed, Haman threw himself at Esther's feet, pleading for mercy. But as the king returned, he saw Haman falling toward the queen's couch and shouted, "Will he even assault the queen while she is with me in the house?" At once, the guards covered Haman's face. Then one of the attendants spoke up. "A pole stands by Haman's house, 75 feet high. He set it up for Mordecai, who spoke up to save the king. Hang him on it," the king commanded. And so, Haman, the enemy of the Jews, was executed on the very gallows he had prepared for another. Justice had been swift and divine, but the danger was not yet over. The decree Haman had sealed with the king's signet ring still stood. Under Persian law, no royal edict could be revoked, even by the king himself. The people's destruction was still scheduled. Esther once again approached the king, falling at his feet in tears. "If it pleases the king," she pleaded, "and if he regards me with favor, let an order be written overruling the dispatches that Haman devised." The king extended the golden scepter once more, granting her request. Then, he gave his signet ring, the same one taken from Haman, to Mordecai. "Welcome to Bible Stories. We bring powerful Bible stories to life, stories that highlight our faith and depict the people of the Bible as they were in biblical times. Now, you can be part of this mission by becoming a channel member. At the Royal Supporter level, you'll unlock special perks. Loyalty badges that show your support next to your name in the comments. Custom emojis you can use to celebrate and engage. Early access to every new Bible story video before anyone else. Priority replies when you leave a comment. And members-only posts where you get to vote and shape upcoming stories. Your support at this level helps us keep sharing these powerful stories with the world. But maybe you want to go even deeper. That's where our Royal Remnant tier comes in. You'll receive everything in the Royal Supporter level, plus exclusive resources created to bless you and your family. As a Royal Remnant member, you'll receive 5 printable Bible-themed coloring pages every month. You'll also receive a devotional pack every month. Each devotional focuses on a key Bible character or theme, like faith, courage, obedience, or God's promises. These short reflections are designed to inspire, encourage, and connect you more deeply to God's Word. Together, these devotionals and coloring pages make the Royal Remnant tier a powerful way to grow in faith while supporting this channel. Click Join today and be part of this mission to keep sharing our stories and our faith with the world.